Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Coach Tiffany Parra, editor-in-chief of Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine, elevating your mind, body, and spirit. Today is Fitness Friday. We are about to have an amazing Fitness Friday conversation with some of our wonderful contributing writers. We are talking about the art of mindful eating. So go grab those pens, those papers, and get ready to take some notes, y'all, because you are in for a treat here. So let me go ahead and bring our ladies on in. Hey, good morning, Teresa. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Audrey Link in the house. Hey.
Hello, everybody.
And we also have Coach Felicia in the house as well. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
excited to have you ladies in the house this morning to have this conversation about the art of mindful eating. And you know what, y'all, when you think about mindful eating, it's not just about what you're putting in your body. It's also about what it makes you feel, how it makes you feel, right? So we're going to dig in and just talk a little bit about, what it means to mindful eat and hopefully give you some tips that you can, implement in your life to be able to help you to release some weight that maybe you want to release or just maintain as we are aging and things are changing. You can maintain a healthy and happy you. So, Teresa, we're going to go ahead and
Okay.
start with you. So, what does mindful eating mean to you, and how has it impacted your approach in health and wellness?
Oh, I love this topic because I think, again, it all goes back to us inside what we do. And it's not to say that there's things on the outside that don't help us. But again, if you're under stress, if you're constantly stressed, if you're constantly anxious, if you're constantly angry, or you're depressed, and I don't mean the deep clinical depression, I mean just that off, either situational or something where you just aren't that happy. So let me put it under the umbrella of contentment. So if you're not content inside yourself, it's hard to lose weight because what happens is when you're under stress, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be not being content, on edge, anything that you want to call it. Originally, your body goes into a fight or flight. And by that I mean you start secreting these hormones because your body thinks that you're physically in danger. Your body doesn't know when it's going to get its next meal. So the first thing that happens is you start to retain fat cells. You start to retain calories. So at that point, you could go down to eating 500 calories and not lose a thing because your body thinks it's starving. Your sugar goes up because your body thinks it needs fast energy to run, to fight, to get away. Body doesn't know that it's just in our mind, emotionally, that we're dealing with things. So all these things are counteractive to weight loss. Then what happens is cortisol takes a big dive. And when
Uh-huh.
cortisol then takes a big dive, then you get more anxious, you get more depressed, more unsettled. Then your thyroid has to work harder. As your thyroid works harder, the thyroid also helps regulate weight and appetite and all that. And it can't do it because now you're stressing that out. You're stressing out your pancreas, which 9 times out of 10 times over the course of about 5 or 10 years, now you become diabetic, which is its own problem in itself. Then your pituitary gland
Right.
gets
Mm-hmm.
involved. And the hormones get all screwed up, female and male hormones. You don't secrete enough. So if there's not enough estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, it throws the body out of balance. It throws off digestion. All this takes place inside of us, and all this is why there's difficulty losing weight. And we saw that especially in 2020. My
Yeah.
my expertise is holistic cardiology. A lot of my patients are overweight. A lot of them are on weight loss or weight maintenance. They had the hardest time. And I kept telling them, doing what you're doing, keep doing it. When you're content, you're not going to eat as much,
Right.
or you could fight the temptation. Then again, if you really want something, take it.
Yep.
Eat that piece of chocolate, eat a piece of cake, um, do whatever you have to do because you have to satisfy the brain. Because the brain too is going to fight against the body and the mind, and the brain is going to say, I want this, I want this. The more you deprive yourself, the more your body is going to really say, I need this, I need this, I need this. And then you're going to pig out and
Yep.
you're going to start doing all kinds of crazy things. So, the mindful eating really is being content within yourself. It's not to say that you can't feel angry, depressed, anxious, any of those things, but be mindful of that also. So, take that into consideration. Feel these emotions because when you feel the emotions, you're sending your heart and your brain the message that you don't have to secrete those dangerous hormones, those stress hormones. So to me, that's the whole thing with mindful eating.
I love that, Teresa. And I love just that contentment, right? We were talking backstage, and I was mentioning about a client of mine, wanting a hot dog, and it's like, okay, she really wanted it. She really wanted it. I'm like, just have it then, have it. But then she felt like crap the next day. But it's like, remember that. You were fine with it. Hey, if I would have not told her to have that, I would have said, you know what, now go get a salad, go do that. Like you said, it would have turned into a binge moment. I've been there myself where I've said, okay, you know what, I'm not going to have this, and I'll do it for, a week, 2 weeks. I'm driving myself crazy. And then when I do go for it, it was like, okay, I'm having the half gallon of ice cream versus having, just an ice cream cone, right? Because of the fact that now I just feel like I need it more and more and more. So we definitely have to watch that. So that's so great, Teresa. So Audrey, what's your take on this with mindful eating? What does it mean to you, and how important is it?
Well, I'm not going to go quite in depth as Teresa. For me, it's just as simple as watching what you put in your mouth, knowing that nutritional stuff is better than the crappy sugary stuff. It depends on what your body wants at the time, So yeah, if you want that sugar, maybe instead of eating the whole bar, just take a piece and put it away. Right. So yeah, it's kind of the relationship as well. Like you got to enjoy what you're eating, and like you're saying, if you eat that whole chocolate bar and you feel like crap, that you're just going to take a little piece of it next time instead of the whole thing. And so that for me, it's really just being mindful there of what you're putting in your mouth, and being easy on yourself. If you're stressed and you're eating that chocolate bar, don't stress yourself out after you've eaten the chocolate bar, because then you're just going to go down that little slippery slope kind of thing. So for me, it's go easy on yourself and just be mindful of what you're putting in your mouth.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey. All right, we're going to come down to you, Felicia. What does mindful eating mean to you, and how has it impacted your approach to health and wellness?
Yeah, it really makes me reflect on, I guess, when I was really first coming to, the idea of getting healthy, right? Because I think we all think we're doing our best at the time, which we are, we're always in our best at the time of current and present time. So, but it makes me reflect back to when I was first diagnosed with PCOS and I was having trouble losing weight. And I was in college, going to college full time. I had gotten my full time job, which then had mandated overtime, and taking full time classes. I also had boyfriend at the time who wasn't contributing as great. So then I became the overworker or the overdoer in that relationship. And so I specifically remembered this time when I was rushing, and I was like, oh, let me go to McDonald's, and I'm eating while driving, and I'm feeling all stressed, and and it just makes me think back to that, how often we're all doing that, rushing from one thing and trying to multitask. And it took some time, for that transition, but ultimately I ended up realizing like I did, I would have stomach aches or bloating. I would just have a lot of uncomfortable feelings like you were describing with your client that had the hot dog, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that, that's where I feel like the mindfulness kind of came from. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember even like I went to my chiropractor and shared with him that, I just was diagnosed with PCOS and I'm trying to lose weight. And at the time, the doctor was like, oh, well, let's put you on metformin and see how that does. And I was just like, what is that? And she was, and luckily she was a DO, right? We know MDs are general, and then DOs usually have additional experience and sometimes outside of even traditional osteopathic medicine. But long story short, she explained like, oh, it's diabetes medication because it's oftentimes helpful for PCOS patients. And when I asked her, okay, well, what would be an alternative solution without medication, she was like, diet and exercise. But most people don't want to do that. They want the pill. They want the easy solution. And I
Right.
appreciate that she was so transparent with me, because I said, well, I'm not that person. I want to do it in the more holistic way. I said, because I've witnessed, my mom dealing with medications and various family members, that I just don't want that to start now, because that tells me, longevity wise, I'm going to be on that for the rest of my life, which ultimately depreciates my longevity. So my chiropractor actually challenged me and said, how about you just try not eating out for a period of time, like just give it a week. Like, don't get any McDonald's, try and like, even if you gotta go to the frozen food section, do that. And when I did that, I had this crazy craving, like your client, where I was like, I need that double cheeseburger from McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and did it. And I took, and I actually, it was because of that time that I gained that awareness, like, God, why am I craving this? Like, but I did it. And then I took a bite and I was like, that first bite was like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, but then that second bite wasn't as good as the first bite for some reason. Like, I don't know why the first bite was so orgasmic, but then the second bite was like almost like, I don't know how else to describe it other than like,
Yeah.
maybe the first time, having intimacy with somebody and you're like, it was a letdown. That's kind of what it felt like. That second bite. And then third bite, I threw up.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like my body fully rejected it. And so that was really like, I guess the trigger for me that really was like, oh, dang, I really need to pay more attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that, that journey is kind of like what that mindful eating experience, like what was my triggering or turning point moment for it.
Right. Wow. And that's just so crazy that your body actually like rejected it, and a lot of times when we are more mindful about what we're putting in our body, if you do go back to, some of those old, bad habit, things that maybe you ate, like, I like Oreos, for example. I used to absolutely love Oreos. And if I eat an Oreo today, I can taste the chemicals in it, and it will immediately make me have that feeling of having to just throw up. I can't even do it. It's just your body will start to change.
Exactly. It's amazing how that transformation happens. And it's not like I really did anything, I simply just stopped for a period of time and then went back to it. And I was like, my body said, get that. Like, it kicked it out. There was no conversation. I didn't have an opportunity to even think about it. I opened the car door and was like, ah, and then, threw that away and was like, well, I guess I'm going home to make that burger myself.
That's right. Well, this is good stuff, ladies. So look, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. While we do so, everybody, I am sure that you have someone that is out there that is interested in learning about how to mindful eat. What is the art of mindful eating, right? So go ahead and share this out to your friends, your family, and let's get some more people watching, and let us help you balance that mind, body, and spirit. We will be right back, everybody. And we are back. That is such a fun commercial. Big ups to Michelle Mupo with Mupo Entertainment. I tell you, I'm always dancing in my seat over here every time I see that commercial. So we are back. This is Phoenix Fitness Fanatics Magazine, elevating your mind, body, and spirit. And we are talking about the art of mindful eating, everyone. So let's talk about the role that stress plays in our eating habits, because stress is huge. I mean, Teresa, you touched on it a little bit as well. You know, it can just really drive us into some very bad habits. So how, you know, what role does stress play in our eating habits, and how can mindfulness help us to manage that emotional eating? So we'll start with you, Teresa.
Okay. I think number one, probably about 90% of all problems with eating or conditions with eating are due to stress. Because as I mentioned earlier, I won't go back into it because it was a little long, but stress wreaks havoc with your body. And that's the main thing. A body in balance is a content body. A body out of balance is anxious, depressed, unsettled, is probably the best word. So if you could maintain an inner peace and calm, and I know it's not always great to do that, it's not always that easy, but if you're overall content with your life, then you're going to be more content with your eating. I think one of the problems, and Felicia touched on it a little bit, was we like pills, shots, we like anything. Now the big thing is the Ozempic and all those things. I'm not knocking it. I think it has its place, but I think we depend on those things too much. I was sitting one time after a tennis match in a restaurant, and one of the women on the team said to me, I just can't lose weight. I've been on Ozempic, I've been on this. Well, she's eaten a triple cheeseburger with fries and got a dessert. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, the Ozempic isn't going to work. It's not a miracle drug. And she thought it was. She really did. She thought that if I've seen
Wow.
the same thing with diabetic patients. Oh, I'm taking a diabetic pill. I'm not diabetic. Well, yes, you are. Your blood sugar's still high because you're not mindful of what you're putting in your body. So I think a lot of it goes back to education. We haven't been educated enough and
Mm-hmm.
self-aware enough to realize that we have to do the work. It's not that we can't get help, just like diet and exercise is help.
Yeah.
There's no miracles in that. If you starve yourself, you're going to get very ill, and you may die from it. So that's not the answer either. The answer is being aware of yourself, being mindful, trying as much as possible to manage stress. And a lot of times, exercise is good for managing stress, and knowing that you can't just depend on those outside things. Yes, they're helpful. You may be under the care of an obesity specialist getting these medications. Yes, they're helpful for a weight loss journey, but just be mindful that that's not the miracle. The miracle really is you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, and sometimes it just takes just getting up and, like you said, just take a walk. You know, I think in my, you know, my specific journey, that's all I really did. I got up from behind my desk and I started walking. And at the time, I was also a smoker. At the time, I smoked about a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. So to quit smoking when everyone says, "Oh, you're going to gain weight when you quit smoking," right? Because that's usually what people do, and then trying to lose weight as well, I just said, you know what, I'm going to walk. And every time I would take that walk, the craving for cigarettes would go away. And the craving for food. If I was, you know, if I really was craving something, and I would just drink some water. And that would really help me to just, you know, it would subside. And I think just going out, getting that fresh air, right? That would bring the stress level down. Because I had a high, you know, stress job at the time too. So it was, you know, all day, and then being you know, a single mom as well, that's also stress, right? So yeah, just being able to get up and just walk and just get that little bit of energy out will do tremendous you know, an impact on you. So thank you, Tristan. So Audrey, what about that role of stress?
Yeah. So, you know, it's it's not only stress, it's any emotion. So if we're bored, we're lonely, we're sad, and then stressed, especially when in our days, like you said, you were busy, had a stressful business or whatever, that demands a response. It always demands a response. Our emotions demand something, and we take action. And if that's grabbing for something that's not good, just because it's there, right? If you have an apple and you have a chocolate bar sitting beside each other, we're probably going to take the chocolate bar, right? Mind you, the two combined is really good, but we're probably going to just grab the chocolate bar because it doesn't take as much, chewing power or whatever, and it's just fast, and it helps our emotion kind of go down. For me, I used to, I never had a hard time gaining weight. Because I never did. I never gained weight. And when I was young, I was really, really active. I did everything outside. I'm a farm girl, so I did all the farming stuff and whatever. And then I had a cleaning business, so I would always be very, very active. So I never gained a lot of weight, and I could eat almost anything, right? So when you're young, you go and I'm looking at our panel here, and I'm like, yep, we're at a little bit of an older age right now. So, gaining the weight is like, we have to watch what we do. And that's where the mindfulness comes in. And so now I notice that maybe I'm in the front of the computer a little bit more. And I'm not as active as I used to be. So, all of a sudden that little bit of weight catches up because maybe I'm, picking on the wrong kinds of food. So it is having the right kinds of food. And so for me, sitting in front of the computer here now, I make sure I have an apple, a banana, or, some vegetables or something to picky eat, because maybe I'm like trying to figure something out. And I'm like, so then I reach for something because our emotions demand an action, and there's got to be an outlet somewhere, right? And if I'm sitting beside the computer, I can sometimes just get up and go out for a walk, right? So there's an action. Or maybe I can do a push-up or two, right? Or maybe I can play with the dogs, or but sometimes it's grabbing something, and having something that's healthy rather than non-healthy beside it, just to snack on. For me, that's how I kind of manage the stress and the overeating at this stage of my life.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think and we have to like pivot and tweak it and everything, right, as we go, because it has definitely changed. But I love what you said, like keeping the healthy snacks close, right? Because when we get into the next question as well, after we hear from Felicia, that's something that's a tip. That's something that you can do. It's an actionable tip that someone can put into place to be able to start, getting those results right away. So Felicia, let's talk about the role that stress plays with our eating habits, and how can mindfulness help us manage those emotional eating?
Oh yeah, I love this question because, I feel like I have a lot of experience with this, I guess. As you heard with my like kind of early, I guess, initiation into being more healthy and mindful. I even think about, some years after that, my mom had passed away in 2018. And cravings, as Audrey was kind of alluding to, mean something. There's an emotional response behind that. And so now when I crave certain things, I really ask myself, like, why are you craving that? And, usually, and, I know not everyone has an internal dialogue, which, is weird to those of us that do, but, right, that response is usually, it tells me I'm missing something or someone, and I'm trying to feel that presence or that memory or that person in that moment. And so that first year after my mom passed away, I had cravings of, Dairy Queen ice cream with dipped in cherry, because that was something that her and I would do. We would go to Dairy Queen and get that particular ice cream. But then that wasn't enough. My mind said, no, we need the more meaningful ice cream. We need this one from this specific ice cream shop back in Jackson, where I'm from. And it's this lemon hard serve ice cream, because that was a treat that my mom and I would specifically go and do at times. So it's things like that, like sometimes it's not necessarily the treat itself, but it's your body kind of bubbling up something to say, hey, we need you to deal with this or think about this or be in this moment. And so I would still go do it, because just the taste, the smell, all of those things, right? Because it's just such a visceral experience. And so, maybe I'm crying, maybe I'm laughing, but as I'm eating it and I'm closing my eyes and allowing myself to feel and experience, it brings up certain memories or moments that are just, I can't have without that thing, that triggering item, And so now I really welcome those cravings. Now, initially in grief, right? Because grief is a roller coaster in all itself, right? Talking about how that affects us. But it's almost like the experience of crying, like going through those steps, allowing yourself to go through the emotions allows you to really alchemize, and it really empowers you more than you realize if you don't resist it. That just going through and having that is like, it's like taking that deep breath that you couldn't get without it, like you're almost suffocating until you finally take that breath or eat that thing. And so I guess that's really like my advice or thought about it is like, yeah, I get that we're stressful and we have stressful times, but if that stress is there and we're just distracting ourselves from it, we might need to sit in it for a minute and just really acknowledge, like, what am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling that? And just that awareness alone can already like alchemize those stressful emotions into a sense of, I guess, presence and peace. Even kind of like an emotional rebirth for some, at least for myself, I guess, speaking for myself, that's how I experience it. And then now with my little one, I feel those triggers are sometimes the opportunity to bring those memories or share those memories with my little one, since she won't have that opportunity to meet grandma.
Right. I love that. Thank you, Felicia.
Yeah.
Right, everybody. So look, we are going to cut to another quick commercial break, and then we're going to talk about some simple, actionable tips for someone that is just beginning their mindful eating journey. So we will be back, everybody. And we are back. This is Phoenix Fitness Fanatics Magazine, elevating your mind, body, and spirit. And I forgot to say, we are taking center stage on the Own It publishing platform, the Own It magazine and publishing platform. We are the #1 fitness magazine on the Own It publishing platform. So, all right, ladies, this has been such a wonderful conversation about just the art of mindful eating, right? So let's talk about some of the tips. What are some simple, actionable tips for someone just beginning their mindful journey? I mean, like, I'm going to just share just a couple of things with you, that I implemented, from coaches that were helping me when I was trying to release over 100 pounds. Okay. they said when you're in your kitchen, right? Because everything's, if it's all right here and you can see it all, you're going to grab for it, right? So all those things that are, the bad items, right? Because when you're on a journey, sometimes the people in your household aren't necessarily on the same journey, right? They may not want to lose weight. Maybe they want to gain weight. Like I know my son through my journey wanted to gain weight. He's like, Mom, why are you taking all these things away? But I had to put them up higher in the cabinets so I didn't see them. So I didn't think about them. And I put all the things that were good for me, all of my supplements and all the things that I needed to take and I needed to implement, I put them at that eye level. And that right there was such a game changer for me. And then also implementing a food journal. You want to write it down. Write it down. And when you're writing down all the things that you're eating in a day, you can also track the emotions as well. I was able to go back and like, oh man, I ate that. Okay, what was going on? Oh, I had this deadline. Oh, I was fighting with, my mom, my sister, my husband, whatever, right? At the time, boyfriend. But I could follow that. And then I could say, okay, how could I have changed that situation? Maybe I reacted wrong. And how could I do that? So that really just put me on a whole different journey of really regulating my own emotions is what it did for me with the food journal. So if you guys are looking for a serious change, write down everything that you eat. You're going to see it's an eye opener for you. So Teresa, let's go to you. So what are some simple actionable tips for someone that's just beginning their mindful eating journey?
I would say number one, be compassionate with yourself. Don't expect miracles. If you eat something that you weren't supposed to eat, okay, there's always another day. I would say instead of really dieting, to really eat half of what you would normally eat. So this way you're eating the food you like, you're not depriving yourself, but you're only taking half of it. So that would be my strategy. The other thing is you said food journaling. That's very important to write down everything you eat because I know I did that myself and I was shocked at how much I was picking at little things, like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. At the end of the day, it definitely all adds up. And then journaling or venting if you have a friend or somebody you could vent to about something or journal. This is the way I'm feeling. Again, even when you look at your journal, you could then look at what you were eating because 9 times out of 10 the way we eat has to do with the way we feel. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't have medical problems. Some do. There are some problems with obesity or conditions, I should say, where it's either a thyroid, a pituitary gland. Sometimes it has to do with other regulatory systems, but that's when you're under the care of an expert that could help you with that. So again, just be compassionate with yourself. Write down everything that you eat, even if it's just, I took a piece of candy, or I did this, or I took something, a piece of popcorn. That all adds up. Journal or vent. If you have a close friend, somebody you could vent to about stresses in your life, find time during the day, anytime during the day to be quiet, 5 minutes with yourself every day, being mindful, getting to know yourself, getting a relationship again with yourself also helps you because once you're aware of yourself, you're aware of what you're doing. A lot of times we go on autopilot. And if
Yeah.
you ask somebody what they ate, they can't even tell you because it's like driving. You get to your destination, but if somebody asked you the actual route you took and how long it took you to get there and what the street sign said, most likely you wouldn't even know. So, we have to, all of us have to get off autopilot, and that's just sitting with ourselves, being mindful without distraction, and developing a relationship with ourselves.
Yes, love that. Thanks, Teresa. How about you, Audrey? What are some simple, actionable tips that you can give someone?
Yeah. So the first one is definitely the same as Teresa's. It's be gentle with yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. to the finish line kind of thing. So take your time. The next one is slowing down. Like our days just go, 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 right? And we are actually human beings, not human doings. So slow down and just be sometimes, right? And that can then even stop some cravings if you're like, why am I in this, right? One of the other things is know your hunger signs and your emotional hunger signs. They're different, right? So you're like, am I really hungry or am I just in the emotion at the moment kind of thing? And that kind of then ties into the mindful kitchen, right? So grabbing for that healthy, that apple instead of that chocolate bar kind of thing. And one thing I was reading at one time was raisins, having some little raisins, right? Because it's just a little that you can just chew on and chew through that emotion kind of thing. So sometimes we kind of just need something to it's actionable, right? To work through that. The next one was I did have journal, which was know why you're eating, kind of the motive. So it's writing it down and knowing why you're eating that thing. One other one was connect with your food. And being from a farm, it's knowing where that food actually come from. One time I was talking to one of my cleaning clients and talking to their little kids, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know that milk, where it comes from? And they're like, well, it comes from the store. And I'm like, oh my gosh, girly girls, it comes from a cow, which is like, and I look at mom and I'm like, okay, you need to know where your food comes from, right? It just doesn't come from a store. So you got to connect with your food. You got to know the work that it took for that food to get to the store. And then that creates that personal connection with your food, right? Like going out to the garden and picking that lettuce or picking that spinach, right? What did it take for that spinach to grow, kind of thing. So it's really connecting with your food. And the last one I have is attending to your plate. It's you're there eating. It's not eating and writing in your journal. It's not eating, and it's being mindful of being right there present with your food. I struggle with that one, just saying. But I know when I'm sitting there and I'm actually sitting there with my plate, that is enjoyable for me.
Nice. I love it. Thanks, Audrey. All right, Felicia, what are some simple, actionable tips for someone that's just, beginning on their mindful eating journey?
Yeah, I love everything Teresa and Audrey said. I fully agree, and I'm on board with those. The additional ones I'd like to add is accountability.
Huge.
Because it made me think about, that was kind of part of what like kind of inspired me to like be a health coach, right? Like be the change you want to be. So that's kind of where this launched off a little bit for me. And so I was posting about like what I was doing to be healthier and to be better. And that felt like my sense of accountability, because then friends and people that were a part of my groups and watching me were like, hey, how's that going? And they'd check in and things like that. So I became known in my community as like the healthier person, or oh, if you're trying to lose weight or get healthy, talk to Felicia. So that made me think of that, just kind of hearing what Teresa and Audrey were saying. And then I love also being present, being present in that moment, like Audrey says. And that made me think about then also thinking about who you're around. Because just even thinking about my situation currently. So during the day, my little one and I will eat together, and we eat with no TV. We sit and we just talk and engage each other and we eat. But then when my husband's home, he wants to have the TV on and he wants us to like be watching that. And so I know that that's a different situation. So I know I'm more mindful as to like what I'm putting on my plate and stuff in the kitchen. I also have become what my friends and everyone coins me as is like the slowest eater at the table. So I'd say slow down, right? As Audrey was saying too, but slow down so you can taste it, so you can enjoy it. I realized this because I was out with a group of friends and one of them literally said, okay, let's be on Felicia's pace because we all eat too fast. And, I felt kind of called out like, well, dang, but it's because I'm usually like engaged so much in conversation and enjoying, right, the oxytocin boost of the people I'm with more than I care about eating, that like I eat. And then once I feel satiated enough, I start engaging, and then my food might get cold and they're like, whereas they're just gouging, and they even say like, I just can't help it. I'm used to doing that. Like one of my friends is a military vet. So she was like, we only had 10 minutes, for anything, whether that was showering or this. And I'm like, well, no wonder, you've kind of had thyroid issues, right? Because you were in a constant state of stress, and for years. But yeah, so I would say, just kind of summarizing: accountability, find that person that you actually want to share your successes and wins with, that will always support you and won't make you feel like crap if you make a mistake because they've been there too. Being present, present for yourself in that meal, slowing down, but then also being mindful of like who you're around and how they will influence the way you eat. Because another thought I have with that is, and I know she means well, but another girlfriend of mine would say, like, let's say we were at a potluck and, she knows I'm mindful. So I'm like, oh, I want this, I want that. Oh, I'll have a little bit of this. And she would say, oh, girl, you can afford to eat more, And so she's like trying to put more on my plate. Like, you can afford a little extra weight. And it's just like, hold on, back up here, like, I'm eating the way I want to eat because this is the way I want to eat. Like, just kind of back off, So, being mindful of that, like, just helps you prepare on how you'll handle situations like that. Because, while I remember her saying that, I've had plenty of people say that to me. Just, because that's their mindset. And so, like, I guess one last thing related to that is also being mindful of what you've been programmed. Because that person then made me think of my mom. And when I started to lose weight, because, right, I was like 100 pounds heavier, my mom was at some point was just like, honey, are you okay? Like, she genuinely was concerned because, culturally, when you're voluptuous and a little, rounder and chunkier, that's healthy to our families, right? Like when they're used to seeing you in a certain way. And so when you change, they're like, that's uncomfortable. I'm not used to who this person is that you're showing up for me now as. And, so she was like making my favorite cheesecake, trying to be like, here, baby, or, making my favorite whatever. And I'm like, Mom, I'll have one slice and I'm good. And then she's like, are you sure? Like, normally you're eating like half of this with me. Right. And I'm like, but I look forward to eating it the rest of the week, not all today.
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you, Felicia. So where can people learn more about your work, and do you guys have any resources to recommend? So we'll start with you, Teresa. How can they learn more about your work, and what resources do you have?
To learn more about me or to work with me, I have a website, www.wellbeinggal.com, WELLBEINGGAL.com. I'm on Instagram at well_being_gal. Those would be, and I'm also on Facebook. You could just look up Teresa Palmer. But, again, be kind to yourself, be mindful of your self-awareness of who you are, and if you want something, my advice is eat it. Just eat half of what you would normally eat, and know that nothing happens overnight, that this is a journey. We're all on a journey, and enjoy the journey, be mindful of the journey, and know that things take time, so don't give up.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, Teresa. Audrey.
Yeah. So my website is my name, audreylink.com. Go there. I'm going to have a bunch of resources on there. My best way is to connect with me on WhatsApp at 780-202-0649. And I am on Facebook as well with my name just spelt like it is. And some resources that I have, are some metabolic, a metabolic course. So it helps you work through your metabolism and how that can help with the stress.
And then also, Audrey, as well, some of the products with the essential oils, I think, could also help people with the mindfulness, because that was one thing I did not mention, but I would have diffusers all over the place as well with various smells that would help me to get through, some of those cravings and different things as well. So being an aromatherapist, you could definitely help individuals in that way too. So I just wanted to mention that. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
All right, Felicia. So where can people learn more about you and your work? And do you have some resources to recommend as well?
Absolutely. So of course I'm on Facebook as well, just searching my name, Felicia Pelto, hormone health coach. I have a Facebook page. I even have an empowered women's group, as well as a membership, a group coaching membership as well. Womb of Peace is what we call that. And the best way I'd say to contact me, honestly, would be Facebook, or applying even to my coaching program at freeasafeather.com/apply, where you can learn all the details of that program, as well as connect with me and schedule a consult.
Awesome. Thank you. And everybody, if you have not subscribed to Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine, you definitely want to subscribe so you can see these contributing writers and their monthly articles and all of their different advertisements. They've got books. They've got just everything. I mean, these ladies, as well as the rest of the Phoenix Fitness Fanatics family, have so many just different various resources and things to help you to balance that mind, body, and spirit, and to get physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially fit. So ladies, I want to thank you for joining me today on this Fitness Friday and sharing some of your amazing knowledge and wisdom on the art of mindful eating. Everyone, I hope that you got some just amazing tips and tools, some things that you can really take and implement today on how to be more mindful with your eating. Again, subscribe, go to Phoenix Fitness Fanatics Mag 2021.com. And if you would like to learn more about any of my coaching, you can just Google me, Coach Tiffany Parra, and everything will come up there and you can connect with me. So we love you guys so much, and we will see you next time. Have an amazing weekend, everyone. Take care.
Bye.